McLaren just shocked the entire Formula One paddock with a qualifying performance that has left everyone wondering if the 2025 championship is already decided after just one race weekend. A massive 4/10 advantage over the reigning world champions Red Bull has sent ripples through the grid. But what's happening behind the scenes tells an even more fascinating story. The Melbourne qualifying session revealed McLaren's secret weapon, and it's not what anyone expected. The orange cars didn't just secure the front row, they dominated in a way that has technical directors up and down the pit lane scrambling for answers. Lando Norris clinched pole position with Oscar Piastri alongside him, separated by less than 1/10 of a second, but the real story is what happened in the final sector of the lap. Until turn 11, most of the top teams were remarkably close. Verstappen, Leclerc and the McLaren duo were trading blows with minimal differences. But then something extraordinary happened. In the final complex of corners, the McLaren cars found over 4/10 of performance compared to their rivals. The technical analysis revealed that while other teams were struggling with overheating their tyres, McLaren had cracked the code on tyre temperature management. The C5 compound Pirelli brought to Australia turned out to be incredibly marginal. Its core isn't strong enough to support such a soft, grippy compound through the high-speed corners of Albert Park. Teams like Ferrari saw their rear tyres literally falling apart by the end of the lap, while McLaren somehow kept their rubber in the perfect window. This technological advantage might be the difference maker in the entire 2025 season. But what about Max Verstappen? The triple world champion pulled off another miracle in a car that shouldn't have been anywhere near the top three. After struggling through testing and practice sessions, Verstappen managed to drag his Red Bull to third place, outperforming what the car appeared capable of. His teammate Liam Lawson couldn't even make it out of Q1, highlighting just how extraordinary Max's performance truly was. When asked about the car, Verstappen admitted it felt alright, but simply wasn't very quick, a concerning admission for the reigning constructor champions. The biggest shock of qualifying wasn't who was at the front, but who was missing. Ferrari, after showing promising pace throughout practice, completely collapsed in qualifying. Charles Leclerc could only manage 7th place, more than 6/10 behind pole. By the time he reached turn 11, he was virtually tied with Norris. But 3 corners later, he had lost over 7/10 of a second. The Ferrari's rear tyres simply couldn't handle the heat, resulting in a catastrophic loss of traction. Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari debut showed promising signs despite qualifying behind his teammate. The 7-time world champion was only 2/10 behind Leclerc, which is respectable considering he's still adapting to the Ferrari's unique driving style. Hamilton needs to master Leclerc's technique of lifting slightly earlier, braking a bit earlier, and rolling more speed through the corners. But the biggest challenge is matching Leclerc's signature throttle brake overlap, particularly in turn 6, where the Monegasque driver has consistently found extra time. Despite the gap, Hamilton's progress suggests he'll be closing in on Leclerc sooner rather than later. The midfield battle delivered some genuine surprises, with Yuki Tsunoda putting his Racing Bulls in 5th and Alex Albon placing his Williams 6th. The Racing Bulls car has been quietly improving day by day, session by session, evolving from an understeering mess in testing to a beautifully balanced machine that gives the drivers confidence. Meanwhile, Williams continues to establish itself as the midfield benchmark, with Albon extracting every ounce of performance from the car. His teammate Carlos Sainz couldn't quite match him in the dying moments of qualifying, but both teams have established themselves as serious contenders for points on Sunday. 2 highly touted rookies experienced nightmare qualifying sessions. Kimi Antonelli, Mercedes' teenage prodigy, damaged his floor after striking a curb in turn 6, leaving him stranded in Q1, but at least he had a valid excuse. Liam Lawson, making his debut for Red Bull alongside Verstappen, was brutally honest about his performance, admitting he simply wasn't good enough. As the only driver in the field without previous experience at Albert Park, Lawson went off twice in Q1, killing any chance of progression. His final lap might have been enough to reach Q2, but another mistake at turn 13 ended his hopes. The pressure of driving for a top team alongside Verstappen is already showing. The forecast for Sunday's race throws another wrench into the works. Rain is expected to hit Melbourne. The last time F1 raced in proper wet conditions, Verstappen dominated while McLaren struggled terribly with tyre temperature. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella admitted they don't know exactly how their car will perform in wet conditions, but claimed they've learned valuable lessons from last year's wet race disaster. With McLaren's downforce advantage and new wet weather understanding, they might not be as vulnerable as some expect. George Russell's post-qualifying comments summed up the paddock's mood perfectly. McLaren is so fast they could already switch focus to 2026 and still win both titles this year. While that might be hyperbole, the gap McLaren has built is concerning for their rivals. If they can maintain this advantage across different circuits and conditions, we could be witnessing the birth of a new F1 dynasty. But with rain in the forecast and Verstappen lurking in third, the Australian Grand Prix is anything but predictable. Will McLaren's tyre management advantage hold up in the rain? Can Verstappen work his wet weather magic once again? How will Hamilton fare in his first Ferrari race? The answers are just hours away, and they could completely reshape our understanding of the 2025 championship battle.